Welcome to Redtastic. Story 1. My name is Angela, 37 female, and I've been happily married to Stefan, 40 male, for about 15 years. We have a son, William, 7 male, who is nothing short of a miracle. After doctors said we wouldn't be able to have kids due to my fertility issues, it took us by surprise when I conceived. Our seemingly normal life took an unexpected turn when my father-in-law, Jonathan, 65 male, moved in with us permanently due to issues with his third divorce. His ex-wife took a substantial portion of his assets, and he barely had enough in savings. When my husband pitched the idea of Jonathan living with us, I had reservations, knowing Jonathan's strong-willed and traditional personality, but I hesitantly agreed, hoping for the best. At first, things seemed tolerable, and I even felt bad for ever protesting his presence. However, after a few weeks, Jonathan's presence quickly went from a mild inconvenience to a nightmare. He became critical of our parenting, especially regarding William, who found joy in quiet and creative pursuits. He continuously criticized William for his hobbies and interests, deeming them too soft or unmanly. Simple activities like drawing, practicing the piano, playing with toys, or engaging in imaginative play were met with disapproval, and instead Jonathan pushed for activities he felt were more masculine, claiming it would toughen him up. William was forced to play soccer and basketball when he preferred board games like Scrabble and chess. Jonathan's absurd insistence on subjecting a 7-year-old to unnecessary and extreme challenges raised my concerns. Every time I tried talking to my husband about it, he just brushed it off. In his mind, it was Jonathan's weird way of showing love. However, as the months dragged on, Jonathan's influence over William extended to even the most mundane aspects of his life. He not only disregarded safety precautions, but actively encouraged risky behavior. One such instance was when Jonathan permitted William to cruise the streets on his bicycle without safety gear. I only discovered this when William recounted the scariest thing he had done that week. The shock and disbelief I felt were profound, and I wondered how a grandfather of all people could intentionally expose his grandson to unnecessary risks. As if that wasn't enough, when we were to send William to a summer camp to nurture his musical talents, Jonathan vehemently opposed the idea, and he somehow managed to convince Stefan that a martial arts boot camp would be more suitable. I tried to voice my concerns, but the excitement in William's eyes drowned out any sense of reasoning. Reluctantly, I let it be, trusting that my husband and father-in-law had the best interests of our son at heart, until my son returned home bearing visible signs of injuries. I confronted Jonathan about the situation, but to my surprise, Stefan came out of nowhere, and together they downplayed the situation, claiming I was no fun. Jonathan said that programs like that were to build resilience in a child, teaching them how to stand up for themselves, and I would thank him one day for all that he was doing for William. Both Jonathan and my husband kept gaslighting me into thinking I was just overreacting and being too protective of William, because he was an only child, and I almost believed them until all my fears were confirmed during a family outing. My husband planned a family kayaking trip to celebrate his promotion at work, and we were all excited, especially William, who had always wanted to go on a kayaking trip. I wanted to pair up with my son, but Jonathan insisted on being with his grandson. Thinking nothing could go wrong in my presence, I agreed and paired up with Stefan. It honestly seemed like the perfect day until Jonathan pushed my 7-year-old son overboard. William splashed into the water while Jonathan was laughing in the kayak. My maternal instincts kicked in immediately, and I jumped into the water to save my son, but not before Stefan had jumped in too. Initially, my father-in-law attempted to pass it off as a playful joke, insisting that William, wearing a life jacket, was never in real danger, but the look on my son's face and the distress in his eyes told a different story. William remained silent afterwards, and he just kept shaking. In that moment, I knew it was partly my fault for ever allowing Jonathan to make any decisions for my son. I decided to do something about it, and I didn't care what Stefan had to say. Unable to contain my shock and concern, I confronted Jonathan about the incident through text messages. In my message, I laid out all the abusive behaviors I knew he had subjected William to and issued a serious warning against repeating any of them in the future. To my dismay, he admitted to deliberately pushing William into the water. His justification was as absurd as the act itself. He insisted it was for the sake of toughening up his grandson, coupled with an unsettling comment suggesting that I, as a woman, couldn't raise a man properly. The blatant disregard for my son's well-being and the parent-shaming left me horrified and appalled. My husband called for a meeting and made sure Jonathan knew that what he did was completely unacceptable. But with the way Jonathan reacted, I knew he didn't understand the gravity of what he had done. Armed with proof of our conversation, I filed for a restraining order against Jonathan. The court granted the order, forcing Jonathan to pack up and stay far away from us. Even Stefan had nothing to say about the matter as he could finally see that my initial worries were valid, and William's safety was a top priority regardless of who was involved. Now, Jonathan is desperately begging and pleading with me to reconsider the restraining order as he has nowhere to go. His only option is to either sleep under a bridge or find an apartment, which is almost impossible as he doesn't even have enough in his savings to take care of himself. He's saying he won't get in the way of my parenting again. Update. Jonathan has been calling and blowing up my phone with his messages non-stop for over a week now, but I ignored all his calls. After my husband said the decision to accept Jonathan back in our lives was entirely up to me, I finally decided to pick up Jonathan's call. First, I told him to apologize to William, and after he hurriedly did so over the phone, I warned him never to contact me again. As far as I was concerned, he could take his tough love elsewhere. Jonathan kept pleading. He even mentioned that he spent most of his savings renting an Airbnb and he hasn't eaten a good meal in days. But after I remembered the way he kept laughing on the kayak while William struggled in the water, I told him he deserved it, then I hung up and promptly blocked his number immediately. My priority is the well-being and safety of my son, and I won't compromise that for anyone who thinks I'm being overly protective. You did the right thing as a mother, OP. I'm proud of you. I can't believe he said you can't raise a man, but he can? That's misogynistic and disgusting. Your husband played a huge role in this too. He could have stopped it when he started, but he didn't. He thought you were being just overly protective. Thank goodness nothing happened to your son. I hope you've explained to him why he won't be seeing his grandpa anymore. I believe he still doesn't understand what he did wrong, and for that reason he can continue to sleep anywhere that he finds himself. He doesn't deserve your help. Stand your ground. Story 2. My best friend is 31 female and I'm 28 female. She has one child, my niece, not biologically, aged 10. I have 2 boys aged 10 and 5. My best friend is married, makes over $140K a year combined income, has a private tutor for her daughter, and is able to manage her time efficiently because she has a live-in nanny who cares for my niece 90% of the time. Despite all of these luxuries, she complains about everything and is incredibly negative. I am widowed. I work full-time from home and bring in roughly $27K a year. My kids are both fully remote. I cannot afford daycare or a tutor. It's 100% my responsibility, and no, I don't complain. I just don't have time to do anything besides work and helping my kids with schoolwork. As it is, I have a hard time cooking dinner due to my work schedule, evenings 1 to 11 p.m. Back a month ago, my friend reached out and said that she felt we were drifting apart because we only spoke once every couple of weeks and never hung out. I explained to her that I'm just incredibly overwhelmed right now and that I don't have time to stop my day and make plans to visit, due to the fact that I have so much on my plate. She said she understood. Last week she messaged me again and said that my niece felt like I didn't love her anymore because I never came around. Again, I explained my situation. At this point, I was irritated because I felt she was trying to guilt-trip me. She promised that wasn't the case. We moved on. Flash forward to yesterday, she reached out and I was busy. I told her we would talk later. She then has my niece send me a request on the kids' messenger on Facebook, and she messages me saying, "Auntie, why don't you come over anymore? Did I do something wrong?" I respond with, "No, sweetie, I'm just busy." She then said, "Oh, Mom said you were mad at us and she didn't know why, so she said to ask you." So I texted my friend and flipped the F out for lying to my niece like that and making a 10-year-old feel like she had done something wrong when I very clearly explained my situation. She's now saying that my blow-up was unnecessary and that I need to re-evaluate the way I handle situations. Am I the a-hole? I'm sorry that you're not getting support from your friend. Thank you for making schoolwork out for your kids and doing what you can to keep your head above water. If you can't always make a hot dinner, don't stress about it. This will be that year we talk about for the rest of our lives. As long as you can stay cool-headed and positive, the kids will too. I have absolute faith that you're doing the best you can, not the a-hole OP. And your friend needs to re-evaluate the way she manipulates you and her daughter. Now for some comments. Not the a-hole. Yeah, that's deeply manipulative and inappropriate on her part. Tell her that since she can't respect the fact you cannot magically conjure more time out of thin air, the two of you need a real break. And that if she sends the kids after you again, you're going to make it crystal clear that not the reason it's happening. Not the a-hole. It's unbelievably disgusting to weaponize a child to emotionally manipulate your stressed friend into contacting you. She seriously heavily implied to her own daughter that she was partly the reason for your make-up anger and lack of contact. That is so sad and breaks my heart and will have long-term consequences for her daughter. Not the a-hole, and this woman is not your friend. I understand that there's probably history here, but why would you want to hang out with someone who, in your own words, complains about everything and is incredibly negative? Add to that the fact that she's also incredibly manipulative and tells her daughter things like, "Your auntie doesn't come over because she doesn't like you anymore." I'm guessing she used to be a good friend, but it doesn't sound like she is now anymore. It doesn't even sound like she's a nice person anymore. Story 3. I, 28 male, will not argue that what I did wasn't childish or petty. It definitely was, but was I justified? Backstory. In high school, I had a girlfriend, Kelly, 28 female, and she was someone who I thought would be my forever girl, until I caught her with my brother, Mike, 30 male, in the act. I was enraged, dumped Kelly, and emotionally disowned my brother. My parents were on my side and told Mike that he had to find somewhere else to live, and maintained little contact with him after the fact. It wasn't until I finished college that my parents started welcoming Mike back into their lives when he announced that Kelly was pregnant with their first grandchild. They said that they didn't want to deny an innocent child a relationship because of what their parents did, and even though I was hurt, a part of me understood. But I made it very clear that whenever Mike was around, I wouldn't be. My parents didn't like it, but accepted my position on the matter. Years later, I met my girlfriend, Tasha, 29 female, and she's really the sweetest and most adorable person ever. Although if you knew either of us separately, you would wonder why we were together, romantically, at all. It's definitely an opposites attract type of situation, but I think we balance each other pretty well. I'm an extrovert who can give a reassurance while she's an introvert who keeps me grounded. During this past year, I would say that our relationship has gotten stronger, and I know my parents love her because she's helped me let go of my anger towards Mike, and I can tolerate him at family events. During my family and I's first in-person meeting, I asked my mom for her grandmother's ring and started my intention to propose with it. My mom was excited and readily got the ring while my dad was offering congratulations. The only ones who didn't seem happy were Mike and Kelly. When my mom came back, Kelly stated that she should have the ring, since she and Mike have been engaged since their son was born. My mom said it was first come, first serve, and that since Mike didn't ask for it and she already had a ring, she didn't need it. Kelly then tried to say that she didn't think I should propose because Tasha and I were so different, and that if it didn't work out, the family ring would be lost to a stranger. I got upset and told her to stop because she kept going on and said that she only cared about the family and that if anything it should go to the first female grandchild, and started making a list of reasons why I shouldn't marry Tasha. I left angry and drove home, but before I went into my house, I made a list of reasons why Tasha was better and more deserving of the family ring than Kelly, and sent it to Kelly via social media. Now Kelly is upset and has been crying, and her friends and family have started to berate me. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Just to be clear, I didn't publicly post the list on social media. I DM'd it to her and she started showing it to others. Since someone asked, no, Mike hasn't said anything to me about the list and I'm not 100% sure where he stands on this because we don't really talk. Now for some comments. Not the a-hole. Your cheating ex tried to tell you why your current relationship will not work is rich. Coming from her, especially when it sounds like you and your current girlfriend mesh so well. And when you do the exact same thing to her, she gets pissed, which confirms a lack of self-awareness. Quite bluntly, she is an entitled a-hole. Godspeed OP and congrats on being engaged. Sometimes you gotta put your ass up on your shoulders and wear that asshole hat with pride and honor. And this is such a situation. She wants to be all about family. She wasn't when she was boning you and your brother. And technically speaking, she still isn't family, just engaged. Her opinion is shit in this or any other situation involving you and Tasha. Take care of each other and good luck. Not the a-hole. Well, my friend, you definitely dodged a bullet when Kelly proved not to be the one for you when she cheated with your brother. I get a little vibe that she doesn't like Tasha because she still thinks she was the best one for you and you should be regretting you lost her. Thus the list of reasons you shouldn't marry Tasha. She is jealous that you are marrying Tasha and that she is getting the family ring. You sent her a list of why Tasha is better woman than Kelly. Number 1. Tasha hasn't cheated on me with Mike. And it was a DM. Kelly is spreading it around in order to look like a victim, which she isn't. Block her family and friends, seeing as their opinions are of no use and they don't know the whole story of why you sent the DM.